All right, let's talk about a number you probably hear all the time, the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. It's the official way we measure inflation here in Canada. And, understanding it is really the key to figuring out why it feels like our money just doesn't go as far as it used to.
I mean, have you had that moment recently? You're at the grocery store, you're filling up your car with gas, and you just get that sinking feeling that your wallet is a lot lighter than it was yesterday. It's a feeling I think pretty much all of us can relate to.
And that feeling, that pinch in your wallet, that's exactly what we're diving into first. It's more than just a personal frustration. It's actually the very first signal to economists and policymakers that something big is shifting in the economy. But here's the thing. It's not just in your head. It's not just a feeling. It's a real, measurable thing. In fact, there's a very specific tool designed to track exactly how much prices are changing for all of us. So let's get into how that actually works. How do we measure these price changes? I mean, how do we go from that general feeling of, wow, everything's more expensive, to a single hard number that actually guides national policy? Let's break it down.
Okay, so here's the official definition from the Bank of Canada. Now, don't let the jargon throw you. The two absolute key ideas to lock onto here are fixed basket and overtime. What that tells you is that the CPI isn't just some random snapshot. It's a systematic comparison of the exact same stuff month after month. And that consistency, that's what gives it its power. So what's actually in this basket? Well, think of it like a giant official shopping list for the average Canadian household. It's got the things you'd expect, right? Groceries, rent or mortgage payments, gas for the car, bus fare. But it also includes things like clothing and even going to the movies. It's really designed to capture what we're all spending our money on. So statisticians add up the total cost of everything in that basket. Then they calculate how much that total has changed from a year ago. The result is just one single percentage. That is the headline inflation rate, the big number you always see on the news. But, and this is a huge but, that one headline number, as important as it is, can sometimes be really misleading. We have to go beyond the headline number because honestly, it doesn't always tell the whole story of what's really going on. Just think about it for a second. The price of gas can shoot up or crash down because of something happening halfway across the world, right? Something that has nothing to do with how the Canadian economy is doing. Or maybe a bad harvest makes veggie prices spike for a few months. Those are huge temporary swings. But do they really reflect the long-term trend? Probably not. And that is the central challenge. These big temporary price swings create what economists call noise in the data. It's like static on the radio, making it super hard to hear the real music underneath. And if you're the Bank of Canada and you're about to make a massive decision, like raising interest rates for the whole country, you absolutely have to filter out that noise to find the real trend. So how do they do that? How do you separate the temporary shocks from the real persistent pressures? Well, that brings us to our next part, finding the real trend. And the answer is a really powerful idea called core inflation. This comparison just nails the difference. Think of that headline number, the total CPI, as a really bumpy car ride, lurching and jerking with every little economic pothole. Core inflation, on the other hand, is like getting onto a smoother path. It filters out those temporary jolts, so policymakers can get a much, much clearer view of the road ahead. And look, this isn't just some academic theory. This is a direct quote from the Bank of Canada. They are telling us, straight up, that they focus on core inflation. They're actively looking past that noisy headline number because core inflation gives them a much more reliable signal of where the economy is truly headed. One of the main ways they do this is with a tool called CPI trim. Now, it sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty clever. Instead of trying to guess which items are going to be volatile, it just looks at all the price changes that happened in a month and systematically lops off the most extreme movements from both the top and the bottom. It's a lot like in a figure skating competition, you know? The judges always drop the highest and lowest scores to get a more accurate result. It's the exact same idea here. Economists rank all the price changes and just trim away the outliers at both ends. What you have left in the middle, that's the stable core trend they're looking for. Okay, so now that we have these tools, headline versus core inflation, we can look at what's been happening recently and really see the story in the data. We can see this exact principle in action and why it matters so much. And man, what a journey it's been. We all remember the middle of 2022, right? When headline inflation peaked at a staggering 8.1%. But by tracking that underlying core trend, policymakers could see it was already starting to cool off, falling all the way to 3.4% by the end of 2023. And as we look ahead toward mid-2025, the trend shows the rate getting much closer to the bank's target. This whole downward slope is the story they've been watching.
And that's the absolute key takeaway here. It's this narrative, this journey over many months that informs those massive decisions on interest rates that affect every single one of us. It's not about reacting to one noisy number, it's about following the story that the core trend is telling.
And this brings it all right back to you. Why should you care about any of this? Well, because the CPI directly influences the interest rate on your mortgage, your car loan, and your credit cards. It can trigger cost of living adjustments to your salary or pension. It basically determines if your savings are actually growing or if they're just losing buying power. This one number quietly shapes your entire financial world.
So the next time you hear that headline inflation number on the news, you'll know there's a much deeper story going on. You'll know to look for the trend, not just the noise. And it leaves us with a final thought. When you're planning for your own future, for your own finances, are you reacting to the bumpy ride of monthly headlines? Or are you focused on that smoother, underlying path?